So today we're going to talk about ABAPGit and APM. A little bit upfront about me. I've actually been a big fan of South Africa, and here you see the my honeymoon, where my wife and I went pretty much exactly 15 years ago, a trip around the world, and we stopped over in South Africa. There's a link on the presentation when you get it later. You can watch the whole journey we blogged across the world. And we always thought South Africa was one of the most, if not the most beautiful country, certainly that we have seen. And you will see some more things in my presentation every now and then. I've put some pictures of our trip in there. So my kind of mission is to bring open source to the world of SAP. I've bootstrapped my Marc tools, some utilities for Basis and BW. I've spent many years now as a contributor to ABAPGit project, and this year I started working on something new called APM Package Manager for ABAP, and you'll see more about that. This is kind of what my life looks like when I'm working from home, working from anywhere. It's not just ABAPGit that I have here on my list. All these commits are into lots of different projects. And if you go further down the list, because I started more web development, you'll see some interesting stuff. I even contributed to NPM. I've learned a lot. So it's quite fascinating to come from the ABAP world, where I spent decades, and now also seeing how open source works in other areas. This is kind of our high-level picture for the rest of the session. We're talking about ABAPGit as a client that developers use to connect to Git repositories. It can be on GitHub, GitLab, Azure, you name it. Anything that has a Git server can be connected to, as long as you have an open network connection to the outside world. Could be also a Git server inside your firewall, of course. And on the other side, we'll talk about that later, the world of ABAP package management that I'm working on. This will be a new way of interacting with the outside world and sharing code and packages with other developers. So the ABAP APM client will connect to the APM registry, and from there you can get packages into your system and also publish packages that you created or you contributed to back to the registry. So let's first talk about ABAPGit. Here you see some of the photos that we took while we were in South Africa. Of course, lots of wildlife, beautiful fauna as well. So talking about ABAPGit, it's ABAP and it's Git. So we need to understand first what is Git. It's a version control system. You note that there's some kind of version management inside the ABAP system. It takes snapshots of your objects every now and then, usually when transports are released. Git is much more sophisticated, much more detailed, has a very complex branching model as well, which you don't really know much when you're just talking about plain ABAP. It's coming now into the SAP world as well with GCTS and BTP, but it's been the driving force for open source development, and we can use it now also with ABAPGit outside of, together with the ABAP world. One key thing is that it's designed for more or less text files. So if they're binary objects, let's say an image, you wouldn't be able to see a difference between the image using Git. But if you see any kind of text files, this is what Git is made for. So that's why we're translating things that are in ABAP into text files that we can then move around between the ABAP system and a Git server. GitHub is one of the hosting services for Git repositories. I mentioned here is because it's the most popular. It's now owned by Microsoft, but it's free for pretty much the vast majority of cases that you want to use it for when it comes to open source. There are, of course, also paid versions if you want to have it, let's say, running inside your company or as an enterprise version. So it gives you a graphical user interface for Git. And in my last, 5 or 6 years working with ABAPGit and open source, I rarely had to recite to the Git command line. Just using GitHub is fully sufficient to do pretty much everything that you need to do when it comes to looking at your objects, changing them, doing pull requests, open issues, and so on. So there's lots of things around it. I'll show you a little demo as well. Now, ABAPGit is the client that connects the two worlds, your ABAP system and the Git server. Was started by Lars. As I said, there's lots of different flavors of Git hosts that we can connect to. One of the nice things is that ABAPGit runs pretty much in every available SAP release from 7.0.2 onwards. And this allows you to use it throughout your SAP landscape. Anything that has ABAP in it, you can install ABAPGit and move things around from open source into your system or maybe between your systems as well. So a little demo. The first place to go to is abapgit.org. There you find the entry point into the documentation, which has a user guide where it tells you about all the different things, how to get started, how to set up projects. One of the maybe a little bit trickier things if you have a brand new system is to set up an SSL connection so that you have a secure connection between your ABAP system and the Git server. So all of these things you find in the documentation. And if you go back to the main overview, you can get into the Git repository that matches ABAPGit. There you find the complete source code, all the objects decomposed, all the different classes that ABAPGit is made of. It's a lot. It's been around for a long time. There's altogether 150,000 lines of code in here. And this is relevant if you wanted to debug ABAPGit or contribute to ABAPGit itself. What you find on this page as well is the link to the last build of ABAPGit. This is all this source code compiled into one single program. And that is the one that you want to install in your system to very quickly and easily use ABAPGit if you don't have the need to debug or to contribute to it. There's also links to sponsor us. You can see there's a few lead maintainers and many contributors to the ABAPGit project. Without those nice developers, it really wouldn't be where it is right now. There have been literally thousands of contributions to ABAPGit. So let's go back to the presentation. Here we go. Now, how does Git and ABAPGit work? When you install it first, you get in your SAP system this ABAPGit program, and starting the ABAPGit program, you can then have an option to connect to a remote repository. That's what you see here as pretty much on the right side. From there, this describes you this continuous development cycle. You would start by connecting it to a local repository inside your ABAP system, pull the data and objects into your ABAP system, and they become active objects. Let's say you have a program in your repository, you would then have all of a sudden, after the pulling it, you have the same identical program as an active objects in your ABAP system. You can modify it into inactive object and activate it. And then if you want to get the changes back into the repositories, if you want to contribute to it, you stage your changes. You get a little staging area where you see what actually changed. Do you want to have all changes or just parts of them committed? You make the selection and then push it back into the repository. The remote repository, and that's the nice thing about open source, there's probably other people contributing as well. So there's other changes coming in from other developers. There is a continuous integration process that run unit tests maybe in GitHub. And then this whole cycle continues on and on and on. So it's very much a development process. And let me show you what this looks like into the system. I'm using here the developer version. It looks exactly the same. Let me go to the first page. This is here my ABAP, what is now called Cloud Trial Development System. But the older version of it doesn't really matter. The new one works as well. So you see here, I have like many different repositories that I have linked with abapGit. You have my own Marc tools, SAP CodePal, SAP demos, tons and tons of stuff. You can tag them. So if I want to see everything that has to do with APM or with abapGit, I can just switch around here. I can show favorites only to limit the list to only a few that I'm working on right now. To connect to another outside repository, if it's not in the list yet, you would just go here to New Online. You would give it the URL and a package in your system. And that's really one of the nice things about it. Even though it's one repository where all the objects are in, you decide in your own system which package it should reside in. So everybody might have a different package. I put abapGit here in $abapGit as a temporary object, but maybe you want to have it also in downstream systems, so you might put it into a transportal package. So it would be different here. abapGit, when it interacts with the repository, will automatically make sure that this works the right way and everything ends up in the right package. So when you click on one of these repositories here, the ABAP system will go to the remote repository and pull in the latest version of all the objects into your system. They're not yet active. They're just stored as files in memory. If there has been an release update, you'll get a little pop-up describing what has changed. You can click that away. And then you see the list of all the objects. It's basically the same as in the TADIR table in the SAP system, where you have an object type and the name of it. So it's like everything that's here in $abapGit and all the related sub-packages as well. Under view, you can also change it to the files that are associated with each object. So that depends on the type of object. Classes have several files. So for example, there's the classes and there's a separate file for all the tests. And then there's usually one file in with either XML or a JSON file that has the metadata for each object. On the back, you see what has changed, whether there's a difference between your system and what's in the remote repository. So if I just clicked on this diff link here, I can see, here, somebody has changed on the remote side. See that here on the right, a line of code or 3 lines of code added something to it. That is not in my system yet. Now, if you want to bring this change in, you would just click on pull. The system will then compare. So you have the very recent snapshot, and it gives you a pop-up of what you can now pull into your system. Some things are checked by default. Those are the ones that are net new. If there is a delta, it's up to you to decide whether you want to bring this in. You would just click OK, and then the changes will go away. I don't want to do this because I'm actually in a development phase here with this with abapGit and contributing as well. The other way, if you made changes and you want to push them back into the repository, you click stage. So it's the basically reverse process. If you remember the cycle that I showed you before, we'll get a little check here that all the objects are okay. It runs all the unit tests in this repository. It's pretty big. As you saw, there's like 600 or something different classes included to make sure. And up here you see all the unit tests have passed on the top. And then you can decide which of those files now should go into the repository. So these are not the individual objects, these are the files that belong to each object. You can either add them, or if something has been deleted, you can remove them and delete them in the repository as well. I just give it a commit message and a little description. And if you want, you can create a new branch of it. There you go. The next, if you click OK again, these things would end up in GitHub. You can jump directly from abapGit into the repository. There's always a link to the URL here. And you can also make changes to it. If you, let's say, you want to connect to a fork, you can change the URL here. You can connect to a different branch. Let's see if there abapGit. Yeah, there's a few other branches at the moment. Depends on the project, of course. You can bring in a pull request. So something that has not been merged into the repository, but is kind of work in progress, you can bring that into your SAP system as well. So for example, there's one open pull request that I could bring in here and pull that into my ABAP system. So this is this back and forth principle between abapGit and a repository, a Git repository. So let's look a little bit more at open source in general in the world of ABAP. You see this is a Hoots Bay, south of Cape Town, and I'm standing here on Table Mountain. Highly recommend if you have the chance to visit South Africa. Coming to open source projects, there's a list available, a nice website, .abap.org. We can find now almost 300 projects listed. Excuse me, but together with their URL to jump directly into the repository, and a little bit of metadata also tells you whether it's kind of ready for running in BTP or not. You can find some really nice projects here. So why do developers love open source, and why I think this is also something that really every ABAP developer should be interested in and should really take a close look if you haven't gone down that rabbit hole. It's very valuable. Open source is about community, right? It's working together on a solution. And as you have seen in the beginning, I've worked on many different open source projects. Some are small contributions, just fixing a typo somewhere, but this makes it better for the next person who downloads it and installs it into their system. Or maybe it's just updating a little bit of documentation, right? Or maybe it's doing a presentation and linking it into the repository so that everybody else can see it. The other part is that it's due to the openness of the code, and the vast majority of licenses allow you to copy it and make changes to it yourself. So if you're not 100% satisfied with what this thing is doing, and you can't agree within the community that this should be included for everyone else, you can still make the changes yourself and customize it. Right? You're completely independent of the original. Then it's an incredible learning and development work. Because you're working together with others, usually there's the lead maintainers. Let's say if it's abapGit, you would interact a lot with maybe with Lars or with myself. Those are the people who are experts in this particular field. So if I pull in a project, let's say I want to do like something with Excel and ABAP, of course I'm going to the open source project and I find there people who are using this every single day. And if I have an issue, I can open it and get really quick feedback, and it's an incredible learning opportunity for myself as well. Then you'll find usually very new stuff, innovative stuff. It's obviously very affordable, because most of the time open source is free, right? Free to use. And this, I have to say, I should put a note here. If you're actively using open source software, especially if you use it in enterprise systems like SAP, and if you're using it productively, please do support the people who are running these projects. There's always like a donate button, or you can sponsor people. maybe and give back to the community as well. And then quality can be much better than you see elsewhere, because developers want to have their solutions shared. They're often very good at watching over security and defining unit tests. But there's a few things that are missing. One, it's not centralized, right? As I said, there can be Git repositories all over the planet. Some in many are in GitHub, but there's others as well. There's like repositories in GitLab, Azure, and so on. So we're at the moment missing a central source. The .abap.org thing just lists a link basically to the repository, but it doesn't have really much metadata. Which versions, for example, exist for this project? What ABAP release does it run on? Who are the lead maintainers? Where do I file bugs and so on? So there's lots of stuff that would be nice to have in a central place. Next thing is that we're talking about versions. In Git, you can version things, you can tag things, but none of these things are guaranteed and stable, right? So if I, even if I, are very consistent, I can always go back and delete the release tag. And if I didn't note down exactly which commit ID this was associated with, right, the version might have changed, right? And it's obviously not correct, not consistent across various Git hosts. So we need a system that lets us define exactly which versions we want to deal with, and also, of course, which other packages your solution or your package depends on. And there can be various different ways it depends on it. Maybe it's just some class that I need for testing purposes. Maybe it's something that is more like a peer dependency, or maybe it's even a dependency that I want to bundle into my own project. So all of this, as you've seen, is like a bit tedious, I think, because you're looking at diffs and colors and push and pull. These are terms that work really well in a continuous development cycle, but when it comes to more a Lego approach of putting different packages together and sharing this with other users, it could be much easier. I just want to, for example, just install a package with a single click, right? And then I want to have a little notification, or there's an update available, kind of like a dependent pod, that something is new. Of course, there's the sharing part. I always have to go out and find the right package to see whether it's available, and then I can maybe bring it in with GitHub at the moment, with abapGit. All right, so we want to have this very simple. So now let's look a little bit here on what I've been working on, and go into APM, or the package manager for ABAP. I don't like to call it ABAP Package Manager, so that's what APM might stand for. It doesn't stand for that. It's just APM. It's the package manager for ABAP, because if you put ABAP first, you get in trouble with SAP and the naming friends there. So here you see a few things when I was there. You can do diving with crocodiles in South Africa. I was there during the World Cup in, I think it was 2010. Quite amazing time as well. So APM is the package manager for ABAP. So there's a client that you install inside your system, just like you would install abapGit. When it becomes available, it will be also a standalone version as a single program. There's a website that goes along with it, and a registry. And the good news is that coming in December, just ready for the next big ABAP conference, there will be this whole thing also as a public version that everybody can play around with. The website where you basically enter the whole world is abapPM.com. This is where all the guides and documentations are going to be. And if you've seen my previous announcement, it will not be free. It will be a paid service, because there's stuff that needs to happen behind the scenes. It's not completely free to put up a SaaS solution like this. So we make it a little bit paid, just like NPM is paid, but the APM version will also be a paid service. On the website, you'll find also the front end to the registry, where you can search and browse through all the different packages that have been published so far. Since we're really early, there is not that much there yet. So here is the live version of it. I can type in here whatever I want, and it will find the different packages. You can click on it and it will jump into the definition of the package. If you are familiar with JavaScript development and NPM, you have seen something very, very similar to this. And this is the model that everything is built on. This is, of course, the same as NPM works with this incredible registry of JavaScript and TypeScript source. We'll now have this APM. Very similar registry for the world of ABAP. So of course you'll get access to the README with all the links into it. You can see whether there are dependencies of the projects and which versions exist, and you can click on each of them and jump around. You could, if you are a registered and paying user, you'll be able also to download from here the tarball or basically the zipped up version of all the code, and you can install it offline using APM into any of your downstream systems. Otherwise, if you're not paying, you can browse on the registry, but you won't be able to download anything. You see some metadata, which ABAP release is basically the minimum, which APM version it works, keywords, authors, maintainers. Everything is there, like you know it also for other programming languages. Now we'll get registry also for the world of ABAP. I haven't published that much yet, but when it comes to December public release, I'll put all the packages that I've been working on in this registry, of course. And APM will be there as well. So you'll be able to download all of this and play around with it. And this is the, now I have to exit this. Switching this. This little side note that I have to mention. APM is not the same as NPM, or NPM is not the same as APM. There are differences, of course, because we're just having a different programming environment. So that's something please keep in mind. It sets very high expectations. APM has NPM in JavaScript has been around for many years, and it's an incredible source. And there is like a really large company now behind it, right, running the show. This is one of the reasons why it takes me a bit to build this up. I'm building this this registry for the long-term future, right? So this is where a lot of my work went into at the moment, into building a scalable infrastructure, from day one. And I actually want to do more stuff with this later on that NPM doesn't do. So that's work behind the scene that you don't really see at the moment, but it's important to get it right from the start. So as I said, it's the download stuff is and publishing is only available when you become a member of this community. But I'll make a playground available for free, so you'll be able to publish, install, uninstall things as you like. Great also for testing anything. So you don't have to upload test packages or publish test packages to the real registry. You can do that all with a playground. I see this is something that's is attractive for you. When it comes to the client, as I said, there's a standalone and developer versions just like ABAPGit available. It works with the same framework running inside SAP GUI at the moment. We recommend the SAP GUI for Windows, but it also works with the Java version. And Lars is working for a standalone version that works completely independent as well. If you follow some of his blogs, we'll be able to use that same technology also for APM later on. I use the newer style of ABAP coding, so 750 or higher is required, and we'll do automated downports later on. The client itself is completely free and open source, so something that works the same way as an ABAPGit. If I start it up, the developer version, you'll see this overview list is a little bit flipped around. In ABAPGit, you had the repository as the main object, and then you decide which package it goes into. With the APM, it's the other way around. You start with the ABAP package, and then you decide which of the packages that are in the repository, in the registry, you want to install into a package. So if I wanted to install one, you just click up here, install, name your package dollar, whatever. South Africa, yeah. Africa, and then you say, I want to have the, let's say, the JSON project in version 1.10.0, right? Click install, and it would bring it in. I don't want to click it because it's already in my list here, somewhere here, JSON. So once you installed it, there's no further interaction. There's no looking at diffs or something. The complete package as it is in this particular version will come from the registry, downloaded as a zip file or a tarball, and will be unpacked and installed into that package. Inside the APM client here, you can also view the README. I'm showing you this particular one with a JSON. Was developed by one of our friends, Alexander, from the Ukraine. Shout out to him. He has done an incredible job documenting everything, and that's the purpose of the README. You'll find all the necessary details on how to use this particular package, right? So you want to have this directly in your system rather than having to go out, where is it in the rest, in ABAP, in GitHub, or maybe it's in another host. Where's the README, right? And you don't see that in ABAPGit either. So in ABAP Package Manager, you will be able to see this README as well. You can see dependencies, and you can see the complete manifest. I kept this here really short in the initial version, but usually you see more details here as well. Let me see if I find one where here, semantic versions, for example. If I go to this manifest, you see there is quite a bit more. You see the licenses linked to the repositories, the dependencies. You can also see here the engine part tells you which ABAP release it is working on. You can also publish things back to the registry. And same thing, you just name which package you want to publish, and off you go. And you can uninstall things as well. And that's the whole point, that this is really easy to discover which new packages are there. You just go to the registry website, browse around, share the links to these with folks of packages that you really like. So this spreads the word about the good packages, right? More people will download it, it will get more interested in these packages, and round and round the development cycle goes with ABAPGit to make these packages better. But then the lead maintainer of the package will publish it back to the registry in a new version, so everybody will then be notified. And that's kind of the goal of this user interface, is that you would see here also that, let's say, a JSON currently installed in version 1.10 in my system. I want to have it, there's a new version available. Do you want to update it? And there will be just a single link to click on to bring this to the latest version. All right, there's so much stuff. I mentioned the versioning. it relies completely on semantic versioning, so get used to that. You'll see it in APM everywhere, major, minor, and patches. Any dependencies is defined as a semantic version range, which has its own syntax. If you want to work with APM, you have to get used to that one. You'll find the details in the ABAP package that it tells you how you can define these ranges for defining dependencies. There's not too much time, so I'll keep this very short. You can have the different types of dependencies, and that's a bit different maybe from NPM, and are very similar, but not exactly the same, right? Because we have only a single namespace in ABAP. I cannot have easily the same object in different versions in my system. So this is how this will differ a little bit from NPM. So if you have a regular dependency, it means that your package won't work unless that other dependency is also installed in the system namespace, in the regular namespace, exactly as the package was defined in the registry. Dev dependencies, usually for things that you require only for testing purposes, that is the same as the regular dependency. Then we have peer dependencies. Those are packages that need to be in your system, but are not installed together. Good example would be, let's say you write a tool that works together with abapGit. You don't want to make abapGit a full dependency and install it every time you run something with your package, like an update. You want to just have it as a peer dependency. So you expect this to be already installed in your system in order to bring in your package. And the fourth part, that's also what I'm working on to make this available, is a bundle dependency. This is where the dependency will be included in your package. However, the tricky part is I cannot include it in exactly the same name as it was in the registry, right? Because that would then double up with a generally installed package, right? Maybe another project wants to use this dependency. So we'll import them and rename them at the same time. So they fit also into your own naming conventions for your project. So this will be the real, I think, killer in the end application, that you can bundle these dependencies into your project and then they become part of your project, but retain the link to the repository. So you'll see if there's an update, and you can bring in the new update of the bundled dependency into your project as well, without impacting anything else. All right, running a little bit short on time, but we are at the end for this presentation. So please, if you haven't played around with it, certainly give it a try with abapGit and all the hundreds of open source projects that are already out in the wild with ABAP and open source. And on the other hand, here's some final sunset from South Africa. Please sign up for APM. I have a little mailing list. As I said, I wouldn't spam anything, so there wasn't anything new. I didn't send out any emails yet. But now that we're coming to the public release, I'll be more active also on the mailing list to keep you up to date with anything that's new. So go to this website. There's a link to the sign up box. If you want to know more, there's plenty of presentations that I've done either at earlier ABAP conferences, or I also did a podcast together with Michael Schneider from SAP on the SAP open source way. So have a listen to that. It's not too long. We'll tell a little bit of the backstory of ABAP Kit as well. You see my contact information. Thanks very much. This was incredible. I loved it. I'll leave you here also in the back of the presentation with a link when I was in South Africa to link to Ikamba Youth, incredible organization that I worked with during my social sabbatical when I was in Cape Town. Please, if you're in South Africa, go have a look if you don't know them. Please check them out and support them. All right, so back to you, Promise. And thanks again for having me.